Hi, Gavin.
Hi, Louie.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic in this new world we live in.
I know.
Of quarantine-tainment.
It's weird.
Yeah.
'Tis a weird time.
I'm beginning to wonder how many new episodes we should record since we have a captive audience.
Right. You guys have no excuse.
Exactly. You're stuck in your house. Please listen.
What I hate, though, is people are like, I'm getting so many, just want to catch up, make sure you're okay, from like, you know, the band I'm in and all this stuff from where I'm like, literally, I thought working from home would allow me more time to do that. No, I'm just working. It's awful.
Girl. And then you're living there. Once you're like quote unquote done with work, but since you're working from home, you're never done with work.
I bet you this would be great if I was like, I don't know, a sophomore in college.
Right.
Oh.
Or if you lived in a place that had like 70 rooms and you could just leave everything in that one room. No, neither of us have that life.
We don't. We're doing our best. We hope you guys at home are staying safe.
For all the
feeling good.
For all the joking about having a captive audience, please stay safe out there. Please wash your hands. Please self-quarantine. Do not go to the beach like those little dum-dums.
Little dum-dums.
Little dum-dums.
That's the name of my band, Little Dum-Dums.
Little dum-dums.
Hey, it's Louie and the Little Dum-Dums.
I would listen to it.
Speaking of listening, you guys are listening now to the Mixed Reviews.
Absolutely. We are a film podcast in which we take a subject such as an actor, director, or a mini genre, and we cut it down. You know, we talk about the history of it. We tell you what we think is good and what we think is bad, and then we give a little wrap up.
Yeah, we take 2 weeks to watch as much as we can, and lots of opinions.
Oh my goodness, do we watch as much as we can.
Before we get into this week's episode, though, we have some old business. Our last episode was all about DreamWorks Animation.
Once again, thank you to Jane Cozens for giving us that idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it came out to be a pretty good episode. I liked it a lot.
We salute you. We asked you guys to go on Twitter and vote for your favorite movie. We had quite the engagement with this poll. I'll let you guys know I'm the one that creates the polls, and I was like, should I put in Other or should I put in How to Tame Your Dragon? Well, honey, the audience has spoken.
Yeah.
Shrek came in at 16%. Kung Fu Panda, which was Gavin's pick, came out 23%. Other, which mostly was How to Tame Your Dragon.
A vast majority of How to Train Your Dragon. Though, I will say we got one for
Road to El
Dorado and one for Puss in Boots.
Yep. That came in at a shocking second place with 30%. And, oh baby, there can be miracles because my pick, The Prince of Egypt, came in at 31%.
Yeah.
So take that!
Guess you got a burning bush on your side.
Okay.
You should get that checked.
Don't talk about my bush. We love Prince of Egypt. We love all these DreamWorks movies. Thank you guys for voting online. And this is like the perfect time, truly, if you're like bored at home, like the perfect time to go back and revisit some of these movies.
And they are so widely accessible.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Literally.
You know? I think somebody said that they just took the Shrek movies off of Netflix, but
a majority of them are on Hulu.
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm sure they'll be popping up on Hulu because of that contract.
Yeah. So. We love a good contract.
Yeah.
But okay, moving on from DreamWorks. Gavin, we have a very special episode.
We do.
Because we're talking about the one, the only, the legendary, the gay icon, Sally Field.
We like her.
We really like her. It's very, I don't want to say it's very rare, but it's rare when we do these episodes that every movie, I'm like, oh, what a treat.
Yeah.
Sometimes this feels like it could become homework.
I'll be honest, even the bad ones, I was just happy to see her.
Yes. And I'm like, and a lot of these movies I'd seen before, but I was like, I want to watch Mrs. Doubtfire again. I want to watch Homeward Bound again.
Yeah, I want to watch Soap Dish. I want to watch Soap Dish all the time.
Oh, fuck yeah. She's just one of those people. I don't know. And
it's funny. I was a guest. I was lucky enough to be a guest on our friend Murtada Alfada's podcast.
Yes.
Sundays with Kate. I did the episode Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And what's cool, though, is he asks you sort of like, what is the one actor you remember from your childhood that sort of got you into movies or obsessing about actors? And I said Sally Field because my mom was such a huge fan.
Yeah.
And I remember, like that time period, she has like a 1, 2, 3 punch with Punchline, Steel Magnolias, and Soap Dish, those were on in my house a lot. My mom really loved Forrest Gump,
Yeah.
I remember seeing Eye for an Eye, way too young of an age. So like, I just, Sally Field, there's something about her presence that I just associate with my mom. Plus, she's so darn cute.
She's so cute. A tiny little woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just so darling.
It's funny, you forget how tiny she is until she starts being in scenes with Julia Roberts.
Yeah. I saw Lincoln today for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, her standing next to Daniel Day-Lewis is crazy.
Exactly.
He can just pick her up and cradle her. But yeah, we were kind of like, I guess we, in our last couple episodes, we were like, we don't really have any news pegs. And I had mentioned, like, I want to pick someone from like the 70s or 80s that really had like a big booming career then. And I threw out a couple of names. And when Sally came up, we were like, we Scooby-Dooed.
Yeah.
Both of us. And I don't know. Like I said, none of this episode felt like homework for me.
Yeah.
I quickly was like, I'm going to read her book. I'm going to just like watch as much as I can. And just, I don't know. Her voice is so like welcoming, soothing. She has a gay son, a famous gay son.
She does. A
famous gay Twitter son.
She got in trouble she was receiving an award for allyship, and she said the F word.
You all have fought for him as surely as if you were one of his parents. You've changed and are changing the lives of little boys and girls who realize somewhere along the way they're just different from their other brothers and sisters. And so the fuck what?
I know.
Which, by the way, one of my favorite things about researching Sally Field is
she loves cursing.
She loves cursing.
She loves
potty mouth, and it's a passion of hers.
Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely.
She is the gay mom we all want, we all need. But yeah. Do you have any other thoughts before we get into our rewind?
No, I mean, I guess just the only way to intro her is Mother Has Arrived. So stupid. Let's get into our rewind.
It was my rewind this week. Because of fun quarantine things, I didn't take as much notes as I usually do, but I did. I listened to her memoir in pieces, which is very moving and very good. Recommend it. And I feel like I know so much about her. I feel like a little bit like my good friend Sally Field.
It is funny because unlike we often try and get as much research as we can. And especially if we're doing a person who is a primary source themselves,
right?
It's always fun. But I feel like everybody else's memoir I've read, be it Cary Grant's or Jane Fonda's, like there's a massive balance of focus on career and personal life. And I really feel like Sally Field was like, no, you're going to learn about my personal life.
Yeah.
She's like, I made movies, but...
She was telling us about, like, where her great-grandparents came from and, like, the relationship between, like, her mom and her grandma. I was like, I know Sally's family now. This is crazy. But okay, I digress. Sally Margaret Field was born on November 6, 1946, and she was born in Pasadena, California. Her mom, Margaret Field, was a working actress, and her father was Richard Dryden Field. They divorced pretty early in 1950, and her mom got remarried to Jock Mahoney, who is a kind of famous stuntman, also an actor in his own right.
Yeah.
And so primarily growing up, she was surrounded by these two really blue-collar working actor characters who weren't famous. Her mom got a deal just to kind of like be on the lot, ready to go when like basically a swing for shows and movies. And Jock, even though he was getting some roles, he was more known as a stuntman.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of personal things I guess we could get into. I don't know how personal we need to get in. I guess all I would say, and she's been very open.
Yes, absolutely.
That she had a very at best complicated relationship with her mom and dad,
right?
Or mom and stepdad.
I do just want to say, like, I don't know if we're past this area yet, but trigger warning for sexual abuse.
Yeah, for sure. In her memoir, she talks about how she was sexually assaulted not only by him, but by numerous people, actually.
Yeah.
So she is a survivor of sexual assault, but most horrifically by her stepfather.
Yeah,
who,
for about a decade.
Yeah.
You know, child abuse, sexual child abuse, any child abuse, but sexual child abuse, I think one of the reasons it is, at least my point of view, it's so damaging is because it's so complicated. There isn't just one feeling. How then do you grow up and have any sort of understanding of what healthy sexuality is? Or how is it not always connected to danger? It's always connected to danger, shame, and loss.
The mechanisms that get ingrained in you as a child, and they worked very well as a child, quite possibly, but as an adult, they no longer serve you. And how you get out of that garment is very difficult. And I think part of this for me was in trying to see the system of survival so that I could move away from it. And it was no longer holding me stationary. So I was no longer seeing things through the eyes of a child.
We don't need to get into the details of that at all.
No.
But just know that she was, as a young person, she says that she was very unsure of herself. She says she didn't really grow up with a lot of friends, was not popular in school. And really, I think where her story for us starts is when she was around 12 or 13, and she realizes that she finds clarity when she stands on a stage.
When I was 12, I was lucky enough to, in my junior high, I was lucky enough to have a theater arts department. And I was, came from a sort of traumatic kind of childhood, and I had put myself for survival in a sort of fog. But when I stepped on stage, and it wasn't even a stage, it was a classroom with all the chairs and desks pushed aside, I did my first scene, and I was 12 in 7th grade. And it was from Born Yesterday. I couldn't have been more wrong. But it was that some bell rang and the fog cleared and something electric, like a spark, happened inside me, and I was alive. And I could hear my own voice. I was purely alive on stage with that young man across from me, and I heard myself speak to myself. And it was the only time it had happened. It was just a flash, and then I went back to not knowing what to do with my hands and my feet. But my whole life long, I have spent, trying to search after those fireflies on the edges of my eyes, which is what led me through my entire life.
It feels like the rest of her career life is kind of chasing that clarity, that being able to feel and be emotional. Because I think she the way she talks about it is she felt so repressed by her sexuality, the adult figures in her life. She felt so misunderstood.
And it's interesting because I've seen a couple interviews with her over the years prior to her book, before a lot of these revelations came out about her childhood, where she talks about how she's really a darker internal person.
Actors have only to call on who they are, everything that they are from the time that they're born. And I think that I'm a very complicated, dark person. I've hidden it carefully behind an exterior that was taught to me. And then I found the stage, and it saved my life.
Like we just said, she's cute, she's like a breath of fresh whenever she's, and I think that's both an acting choice, but also a defense mechanism.
Oh yeah. I mean, and it's interesting. She talks a lot about how there's like expectations about like what a girl is supposed to look like, what is the girl supposed to do. And I think as we get through her career and stuff, we'll see how that manifests in her choices as an actor, the roles she takes on, and things like that. Okay. All right. Moving a little bit ahead. She, in the book, she talks about how she became a cheerleader, and she was very happy and proud of it.
Yeah. Especially because the bitches that didn't give her any time.
Yeah.
Didn't make it.
Fuck those bitches.
Yeah.
I mean, she tells this very famous story about how her brother had gone off to school, and she was like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, essentially. After high school, her stepfather, Jock, takes her to a like workshop, essentially an acting workshop.
Yeah.
And she does a scene with her mom. We did one scene and she was like, but I had no idea that it was like about, crazy sexual stuff. She thinks that the showcase is kind of lame. She doesn't think too much of it, leaves. And when she's outside, a man approaches her, and he's like the head of the TV division of Columbia, I think. Or it's Screen Gems.
Screen Gems, yeah.
And he's like, hey, I saw you in there, and I think you're great. You should come to this audition for a show. And she's like, okay. And she's just like, she's literally, 17 years old. And the first thing she ever gets is a TV show called Gidget.
Yeah.
And it's about a little teeny bopper surfer girl and her relationship with her father.
See before you meet, Gidget. For 15 and a half years, my life was a complete and total ick. But then, on the 23rd of June, 2 things happened. I fell in love with 2 things. Jeff, my moon doggy, and surfing.
Being on that show, it wasn't a big success. But
no. And what was interesting about Gidget is, like you said, it's not a big success. Gets canceled and then becomes huge because they start airing it during the summertime when teenagers are actually home.
Right. And she says that she has one great story about how she had one scene with like the father character where she's like really crying, and like everyone on stage is like, oh my God, like this girl can really act. Anyway, the show gets canceled. And in this time also, the actor who plays her father, she really grew to like love him and see him as a father figure. And she was kind of saying, I really thought he was my dad. Like, I'd never gotten this kind of attention and care from an adult male in my life. So that was, I think, really, she talks about how grateful she was to him. After that, she gets cast in The Flying Nun.
Which was ABC's attempt to keep her in the mix because, like I said, Gidget becomes a huge sensation over the summer, but they've already canceled it.
Right.
So they need a new vehicle to keep Sally Field in the fold.
Right. And during this time, though, she is like, I want to be a real actress. I want to go and I want to, she said she had never been to New York, never been in a plane, much less out of California. And she turns down Flying Nun like 3 times.
Yeah.
And, they literally send her stepfather after her to be like, if you don't do this, you might not get another job ever again. And they essentially scare her. They had already started filming with another actress.
Right.
And the pilot for it. And so finally she essentially makes a decision out of fear and says, okay, I'll do The Flying Nun. Even though she has said she fucking hated it.
To this day, she talks about how much she hates The Flying Nun.
Yeah. She's like, I didn't want to do it. I thought it was a very stupid show. Every episode was the same. There was no substance there. It wasn't funny. She really has feelings about this show. And what comes out of this show though is she has a story where she has a breakdown on set.
The great my friend Madeline Sherwood, who played the Mother Superior when I was really depressed, said, come with me, and took me to the actor studio. And that was the end of the first year of The Nun. And it saved my life because I met Lee, and I would be doing The Flying Nun in the day and going to the actor studio at night and doing things I wanted to do. And I was starting to find the place inside of me that mattered, which was to be an actor.
It's funny. I feel like Lee Strasberg's come up a couple of times, but I think more than anything, he's name dropped a lot in our Jane Fonda episode.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Strasberg actually asked her why she was there.
Yeah.
Because he was like, you're a working actor. You get what most of these people never will.
Right.
And she was there to hone her craft.
Yeah. And to be fulfilled, because she was, she talks about she was going through an eating disorder also while she was on The Flying Nun. She was taking all these diet pills. So she was always like zonked out of her mind. She says that because her mom was an alcoholic, and so she ate a lot when she was anxious and stressed out from the show. And so her weight was ballooning like crazy.
Right.
Because The Flying Nun was such a big success, there are a lot of press and tabloids and stuff. Also, might I add, Sally is the OG bitch who made it from TV to film.
Right.
People love talking about George Clooney and how he's the only one who's done it.
But she has a very rocky road, I will say. George Clooney, like, took off.
Right. What I love about Sally, though, is like who was I just talking to about this? Like, I mean, Jane Fonda's a good example. Jane Fonda's a gorgeous model.
Right.
Sally Fields, she's like, I knew I was never going to be the model. When she would try and go out for auditions, they were like, you're never going to be on the list. Your only models are in contention for these roles, and you're just not that. And so you're right. She had a very rocky road to try and break free. And honestly, after Flying Nun, she was typecast. You know, people were not like, oh yeah, we'll put the fucking Flying Nun in our movie.
Absolutely. And that's she kept running into that time and time again. She does another short-lived one-season ABC show. Doesn't pan out. She starts doing... She in the book, she constantly talks about, God forbid, like, I didn't want to do game shows. I didn't want to do all these things. I wanted to act.
Right.
And, she eventually gets... she starts to move more towards an actual film career. She does do one movie during the time of Gidget and the Flying Nun, which is a Western with Kirk Douglas called The Way West, and it is so bad.
Okay.
I'm very happy to not talk about it.
Excellent. So her big non-TV break, I mean, it is TV still, but it's... fuck it. It's Sybil. Sybil in 1976 comes around, and she fought so hard for this part. And it's funny. I mean, I rewatched all of Sybil.
Yeah, so did I. I had no idea. I mean, not rewatched for me, first time for me. I had no idea, because I didn't know it was a TV movie, because people talk about Sybil like it's, and admittedly, there was cut together for a film release later, but it's 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, it was a 2-night event on ABC. And this is like in 76, the same year that Roots came out. So like TV events were really big, that year. But so she does Sybil, where she is playing a woman who has 17, different personalities.
Yeah. It's based off a true story, but there have been, there have been contentions to say that perhaps it was made up.
Right.
But, and she mentions that. I like that she mentions that in the book. I like that she's like,
who knows how accurate any of this is.
Right.
But what is, I think, important, I mean, for sure, there is still stigma around mental health. And there are reasons why people think like, oh, multiple personalities is like evil or weird or like, spooky, ooky shit.
Right.
But for the time, this was the first showcase of, child abuse and
the child abuse is heavy. Yeah.
Hard to watch.
Yeah.
I remember I first watched this movie in high school in our psychology class, because our teacher was a loser. But I rewatched it now. She's incredible.
Yeah.
The tackling and this movie was really hard to make. They had to fire the director.
Yeah.
Because the first director hated everything what Sally was doing.
Yeah, he didn't even want her. The other lead role in the film is Joanne Woodward, who, funny enough, plays a similar character in the classic film Three Faces of Eve. And essentially, Joanne Woodward said she wouldn't, after seeing Sally's test, wouldn't do the movie without Sally, and then was also instrumental in removing the original director.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
And fuck that guy. She ends up winning an Emmy for Sybil. Funny enough, she did not go.
No.
Because men suck and are fucking with her life her entire career. During this time, she was dating Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
And Burt Reynolds, very hot, but also very much an asshole.
Yeah, he basically, he was an abuser as well, but not in a physical sense. He was an emotional abuser. Yeah. He wouldn't let her swear, and she says that she constantly had to make herself smaller as his personality got bigger.
He was who he was, and a man of his time, and needed the women that he was with to represent him in a certain way. And but would he have been different if I could have said, "Don't do that. I don't like it." But I couldn't. I couldn't be myself. I was absent from I was behaving the way I was taught, and that is to be loved, I had to disappear.
Yeah.
So I disappeared.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, truly, it continues.
Yeah.
Throughout for
I mean,
a while.
I mean, the Sybil, before she did Sybil, she does a movie that doesn't come out until after Sybil.
Right.
Called Stay Hungry, which was written and directed by Bob Rafelson, who basically leverages her sexuality for her to keep the role.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, like, starts sleeping, has an affair with her, so she can stay in the role that he... So yes, men in her life have a bad tendency to use and abuse her. So also, fuck Bob Rafelson, even though I do like Head, which is the Monkees movie. But
like, excuse me, Gavin.
I love Head.
You're right. So Stay Hungry is her first film release. And that came after...
as like a top build, yeah.
Right.
It comes out after Sybil, but she shot it before, yeah. And she plays kind of a down home, like sleazy loose. She has a love affair with Jeff Bridges, and maybe had slept with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mm-hmm. It's also one of his first film roles, which I was not expecting. But yeah.
So like I said, this is around the time when she is dating Burt Reynolds. They end up doing 3 movies together.
4.
Oh, that's right. There's the sequel.
Yeah.
Most notably is the Smokey and the Bandit,
which was their first one. Yeah,
their first one, where she says that. I mean, that's kind of where they met. He was like, the script's bad, but I want you to come and do it with me. And they basically improv like a majority of it.
Well, what are we going to do when we get home?
Go to bed for a week.
Good idea.
And sleep.
Want a bed?
The movie's fun enough.
Yeah, I said I watched it for this, and I was just like, it's not for me, but I can see why. It's funny. I was thinking about too, like, the thing that Burt Reynolds has, and he's basically like, especially during the 70s, he's like the coolest white guy.
Yeah,
like he's like what every white guy wishes they were like,
for sure.
And there's a lot of dads in that era who watch that movie and are like, oh yeah, that's who I am.
Smokey and the Bandit was the second highest grossing film of 1977.
Right, which is the same year a little film called Star Wars came out.
Hello.
It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah. So during that time, she gets a call from director Martin Ritt. And he essentially is like, saw you in Sybil, honey. Thought you're pretty good. And asks her to come on over, and so they can, have a little talk, a chit chat, if you will. And he essentially is like, I have this movie called Norma Rae. We've offered it to other women. They all said no. But I think maybe you can do it.
Yeah, I want you. The studio doesn't. Before she even reads it, she tells him, before she leaves the office, and this is my favorite thing about her, is she says, I don't care what it is. I want it.
Yeah. I think Norma Rae for her feels like the time when she was like, I need to break free. She had done Sybil, and even though had gotten all these accolades and awards for it, it was still a TV movie.
Right.
She was kind of in this toxic relationship, not only with Burt Reynolds, but she also had this, her personal life was just kind of like in misery. Yeah. What was going on. And
at this point, she's still real young. She already has 2 sons.
Yeah. She has 2 young sons, and she thinks like, oh my God, Martin Ritt, who is an actor's director, so well respected. And she's thinking like, this is it. This is my way to becoming a real actress. And fucking Burt Reynolds is like, why did you go take the meeting? And like, he's just classically still being an asshole.
Yeah.
But anyway, she does Norma Rae, does Gangbusters. She wins every acting award in North America. She wins
every acting, like literally, there is no acting award in North America for best actress in a film she did not take home.
Yeah.
And I know you just said that, but I need to stress that that's unheard of.
She won also the acting award at Cannes that year. she has a really great moment in the book when she says, after the movie finished, the like spotlight's on her and Martin and they're clapping, and then Martin sits down and it's just Sally and they grow even louder. And she won the trophy at Cannes that year also. Norma Rae lets Hollywood fucking know, like, this is not little Gidget anymore.
Right.
This is a woman that has, fire and urgency and a range, to really show off what she does. And we love Norma Rae. She does The End, Hooper, Smokey and the Bandit 2.
Yeah.
And like these movies, like she's like less and less in, like, and she's just
as the movies with Burt Reynolds go along, she's less and less in them. Can I briefly mention the movie that she's in right after Norma Rae?
Please.
Every person needs their Catwoman after they win the Academy Award.
God.
So the first movie she does after it is Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Oh my God.
The sequel to the Poseidon Adventure. She has said many times she did that solely for money.
Money.
And I do not blame her, but it is so bad.
What I love about her is that she is very unafraid to be like, listen, I know what my career has been like.
Yeah, she says in the book, she's like, I have had my, fill of stinkers. She did, during this period, she also does this movie called Heroes that she did that right after Smokey and the Bandit. And she was like, it's not great. And I watched it today, and you know what? She's right. But like, I love the fact that she's able to call it out.
Right.
Because there's not too many. I think the last actor we did who was willing to talk about their bad performances was maybe Julianne Moore a full year ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny. I mean, the thing that's interesting, and maybe it's just because I read this book of hers, but she talks about this industry very much as a business. She was like, my agent said, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to do Smokey and the Bandit. You get to be the hot side piece to Burt Reynolds, Maybe you get people thinking about you as like a more sexual object as opposed to, flying nun, like just to keep. And so she talks so much about how she has never been, even after all of her success, she's never been able to like be getting like a million offers
right.
to do everything. She can't be. And so she knows, she's like, sometimes I have to pay bills. I have young fucking kids.
Right.
I've got a mom. I've got a sister. Like, her family life was just so insane. She was like, I need to work.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that. As we get into the 80s, she does Absence of Malice with, God, he's so handsome, Newman.
Yeah, Paul Newman, whom I met before he died.
Wow.
I'll tell you about it someday.
The most handsome, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a teenager. So.
I was so happy to like be like, ooh, surprise journalism drama.
Yeah, but also like bad journal. Like the movie was made. The small sidetrack for Absence of Malice. Absence of Malice was made because the New York Post wrote some incorrect stuff about Paul Newman, and Paul Newman really wanted to stick it to him by making a movie about how journalists get it wrong.
Right. Well, at first I was like, ooh, exciting, and I was like, wait, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Like,
people referred to it as the anti All the President's Men, which is so funny because Robert Redford's in All the President's Men.
Yeah.
So like, little rivalry there.
And then the comedy Kiss Me Goodbye, which I think is really like dumb, but I love it.
Yeah, it's not great, but I had fun. I don't think, can I say this now? This is because neither of these are my 1-star reviews, so I'll just get it out now. Between Stay Hungry and Kiss Me Goodbye, I don't think she has a lot of chemistry with Jeff Bridges. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And like, I thought I was like almost rooting for the fucking ghost in Kiss Me Goodbye because James Caan, who hated the movie, didn't do another movie for 5 years because he hated the movie. I thought James Caan was so charming because he's clearly playing Gene Kelly.
Yeah.
And he's doing like his little tap and stuff.
He loves tap dancing.
And I was just like, you know what? Just fucking go with the ghost.
Okay, so fun thing about Kiss Me Goodbye, it's about a fucking ghost.
It's about a ghost.
But like, it's one of those like sweeping, the way we wear movies. Like, it starts that way. It's just very sweeping. It's very upper crusty. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, a ghost is here.
Yeah. It's the ghost of Sally Field's first husband, who was a Broadway choreographer.
Who dies at his like Tony acceptance party.
Yeah.
Because he falls downstairs.
And so then she decides 3 years later to marry a boring straight-laced man.
I know.
And she like goes back to their old apartment, which by the way is like
Gorgina.
a 3-story brownstone. So she has money. And
well, when you're a Tony Award-winning producer's wife,
exactly,
you know how it is.
And that's when the ghost comes back into her life.
You were sad.
No, I was angry.
Angry? At what?
at you.
What did I do?
You died. You went and died. God, I hated you for that. I hated you for going off and leaving me. Just when I thought I had you out of the way and behind me, you had to go and show up here again.
Because we're not going to talk about this movie again later, Kiss Me Goodbye is just a very good, like...
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a very good, like, campy, gay, like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I think Jeff Bridges is actually the breakout star of this movie, because I think he has a lot more to... Sally's fine.
Sally's fine. She has the unfortunate, and I think it's in the script, she feels like she's up and then she's down and then she's screaming and then and like, I feel like you see that better deployed in later movies in her career. You see it a bit in Soap Dish, see it a bit in Miss Doubtfire, but like here it's like 11-2, like,
but all I just say, if you're having a gay movie night or whatever,
yeah, Kiss Me Goodbye. It won't hurt you.
It's funny. Okay, in 1984, she does Places in the Heart, where she wins her second Oscar.
Yeah.
Leading actress.
And I once again, Louie and I do not discuss our picks beforehand, so I may be insulting him right now. What a nothing movie to win an Oscar for.
I watched the movie, I was like, you know what? I enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
But the role is very... vanilla.
And I felt like it's like analysis of racism, vanilla. Analysis of war, vanilla. Poverty, vanilla. Violence, vanilla. Everything it feels like an 80s TV movie with a better budget.
Yeah.
Because that tornado sequence.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It looks great. Danny Glover's in it.
Yeah.
I thought like the supporting...
I fucking love Danny Glover.
The supporting players are all really good.
John Malkovich.
Yeah. Okay, but also, me and Derek, I was like, Derek, this is just like the Triforce of like minority, disability, woman, and we're coming together to beat patriarchy.
100%. That's what I mean. But it like never wants to really talk about those things.
Yeah.
Like a large portion of the film is about cotton picking, and never once does it really get into except for like Danny Glover's like describes what it's like to pick cotton, but that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what
Also,
are you doing?
The entire B plot of like
Ed Harris and his fucking wife that has nothing to do with the main plot.
But also
genuinely.
like no consequences really, like nothing really happens. But the movie is fine enough. It's inoffensive. And you know what? But so this is the movie that she says her famous Oscar speech.
Yes. Which was a quote from Norma Rae, and most people don't realize that.
And so just so we can get it out there, because it's also often misquoted. She says, "I haven't had an Orthodox career and I've wanted more than anything to have your respect. The first time I didn't feel it, but
this time I feel it, and I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me."
And that last part is the quote, right? And she talks on, I think it's Hollywood Chatter or whatever the fuck. She brings up Anne Hathaway.
And It Came True.
It Came True speech and how fucking awful it was. And Anne Hathaway said it was a fucking awful speech. But the expectation of like showing like your gratitude and all this stuff, it's a really fucking awful place to be in, you know? It's like if you don't show enough emotion, you don't care.
Yeah.
If it's too much, they're like, oh my God, relax. It's like you can't care that much. And so she said, she has this quote where she's saying, you know, like, I took a second, and that was the year that they started like flashing lights in your face, like instead of like an orchestra, it was like just like a flashing light. And she was like, I just really wanted to be so included as an actor, and that's what came out.
And I genuinely think, I mean, everything. It's funny because she doesn't really talk about it in her book, but I think like that specific moment. But I think what she's alluding to a lot in her book is that, she wants to be seen as such a serious actor, and winning that second Academy Award was proof that she was respected for the art that she was doing, that it wasn't just a job. She knew she gave a good performance in Norma Rae.
Yeah.
She knew she gave a good performance in Places of the Heart, but to be awarded twice for it was such a big deal to her. I get it. I totally understand.
Yeah. And there are very few actresses who have won lead actress twice.
Yeah.
So it's a very like rare field to be in. And
a rare Sally field.
I walked into that. I gave that to you. But I mean, and I, maybe not for this role. She didn't deserve it or not, but like I think she fucking deserved. Her body work, I think, speaks for itself.
Yeah.
With that, let's keep going. She co-stars with James Garner in 1985 in Murphy's Romance.
Yes. A role that she it's the third and final film she does with Martin Ritt, because she also did Backroads with Tommy Lee Jones, and it's a disaster. But she does Murphy's Romance, and they had to fight to get James Garner into the role. Nobody wanted him. They wanted Paul Newman. They wanted to reteam her Paul Newman. She has said several times her kiss with James Garner.
Slow down the music, Gavin.
Is the best screen kiss she has ever received. Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I buy their romance.
I 100% did too. I didn't think Murphy's Romance was an amazing film, but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think they are very good together.
Yeah.
One funny little tidbit. So during this time, Sally Field had basically a contract with Columbia Pictures. She was doing a bunch of movies with them. Columbia Pictures at the time was co-owned by the Coca-Cola Company. And so, in a lot of those movies, they're like her being like, hey, I'll take a Coke. And there's like a bunch of signs of fucking like Coca-Cola everywhere. I was like, we get it. Enough. Product placement, not new.
Yeah, no. In 1988, she does a little film that she actually produces. She is an uncredited producer. It's a film called Punchline.
Oh my God.
I'm mentioning it now because a good friend of mine, future guest Kim Sorensen, would be very angry because it's one of her favorite films.
Really?
The last time I saw it before rewatching it for this, I watched it with Kim. It's a film in which she's a housewife who decides to embark on a career of stand-up comedy. She has a bit of an overbearing husband who doesn't really understand her
John
choice.
Goodman, you mean?
Yeah, John Goodman. And she sort of falls under the tutelage of a younger comedian played by Tom Hanks. I love this movie unabashedly.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It is the same year that Roseanne starts on TV. And I think you can feel the sort of Roseanne influence of this housewife who decides to turn to comedy. I love the chemistry she has with Tom Hanks. I love the chemistry she has with John Goodman. And I like the fact that the director said he cast John Goodman because he was like, the husband is an asshole, but he's not a bad guy.
Yep.
And that's what he wanted out of that. I love the fact that the film is populated by other comedians.
Yeah.
And what's great
fun.
is during the lead up process to making the film, Sally and Tom Hanks both went out to do stand-up comedy for people. Tom Hanks said the first time he did it, he bombed. He thought he had a tight 5 minutes. It was about a minute and a half. And then he struggled on stage. But one of the other times he did it, Chris Rock was one of the other comedians on the bill. And he said Tom Hanks delivered the funniest 5 minutes he's ever seen an other comedian do. Sally Field, in a separate occasion, was on a bill with Adam Sandler. And Adam Sandler said she gave one of the funniest 5-minute stand-ups he's ever seen in his entire life. And it inspired him to keep going.
Well, that's range, my friends. Okay.
And so I highly recommend. It's a great rainy day movie. I love it. I love that there's like a parallel to it, to Norma Rae. There's a great scene in Norma Rae where she sits her kids down and she tells them about her life and she explains everything, like they're going to come after me. They're going to smear me.
I love you kids. That's the first thing. Second thing is, I'm a jailbird. Now you're going to be hearing that. And a lot of other things. But you're going to hear it from me first. Millie, your daddy, his name was Buddy Wilson. And he died 4 months after you was born. Craig, I wasn't never married to your daddy. And he wasn't Buddy. And he's not Sonny. He's another man. And there've been others in my life. You're going to be hearing about them too. I'm not perfect. I made mistakes.
And there's a great scene in punchline where she sits down with her kids and she explains what comedy means to her.
There's 3 things in this world that I love. I love being a mom. I love being a wife. And I love being able to make people laugh. I've always been able to make people laugh, even when I was a little girl. It's always made me feel good. It still makes me feel good. The thing is, when you do it right and you make people laugh, it feels like you're doing something that no one else could do quite the same. You know? It makes you feel special. I'd be a happy mom if you guys could find something in your lives that could make you feel that way, you know, make you feel special. You know what I mean? I'd be even happier knowing that the people who loved you were helping you to do that.
And it's a great parallel to that. I don't know. There's just something really special and magical. And plus, once again, the chemistry with her and Tom Hanks, even though she is 10 years older than him, so good. Anyways, that's my rant on Punchline. What happens the next year, Louie?
Well, the next year, in 1989, she does Steel Magnolias.
Ooh.
Which is just one of those American Southern movies that really make you want to just like, ooh, get a fan, you know, feel that dewy sweat. Yeah, Steel Magnolias is like a fucking classic. It's
absolutely,
you know, a tour de force of American women that is funny every time you watch. It is sad and heartbreaking every time you watch. Reminds me, I mean, it reminds me of my undergrad days.
Yeah. Robert Harling, who wrote the play it's based on, wrote it about his sister who died of complication of type 1 diabetes. And he was brought in to write the screenplay. And what's amazing about the play versus the movie is the play all takes place inside Truvy's hair salon.
Amazing.
I've actually seen the play.
Amazing.
And it's it's really good. And so for the film, he has to expand upon that. There are no male characters in the play. So he has to really beef up those characters, gives Sam Shepard an amazing minor role as Truvy's kind of emotionally distant husband. And I don't know. I think that movie is so well crafted. Like I said, so funny, heartbreaking. Obviously, I rewatched it again today. I was like, I don't need to rewatch this. Rewatched it again today. Maybe like a solid 30 minutes of crying. Yeah. And even crazier, the director, Herbert Ross, who apparently was an asshole to work with, he kept telling them that they couldn't act. He made Julia Roberts cry.
Jesus
Dolly
Christ.
Parton, at one point, he said, "Can you even act?" And Dolly Parton said, "No, but it's your job to make it look like I can." Shirley MacLaine, his wife had died 2 years before he made the movie. Shirley MacLaine was friends with them. One point, he was being so mean to them. Shirley MacLaine was like, "You've been nasty ever since your wife died, and she wouldn't be proud of you, and none of us are." So
leave it to Shirley MacLaine.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, I mean, her character in the movie, would have
Weezer?
been. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Weezer.
Weezer, who in the remake was played by Alfre Woodard, which once again, probably a shining star in the remake.
Yeah.
The remake's not so great. But I just wanted to point out that, like, it's a heavy lift to take that from the stage to the screen and rework it into a film. And it's interesting because the version of the play I saw, the woman who played Mei Lin, which is the character Sally Field's play, was very unemotional. Just completely like deadpan. And it was a really interesting thing to watch the difference between those roles, because Sally Field gives such a warmth to it, but she is tough. She's tougher in this movie than she is in a lot of her roles.
Right.
Because you can tell that life has scabbed over. And the way that this other woman played it, she was completely calloused to life.
Oh.
So when she has that breakdown at the end, when she loses her daughter, it's like an atomic bomb. But I love the way Sally Field plays it, because it's almost like ripping a Band-Aid off at the end. It's not as in your face about it,
Right.
but it feels real and grounded, and you feel just awful for her when she's trying to figure out why her daughter is dead before she is.
Yeah.
Oh, honey, are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. I can jog all the way to Texas and back, but my daughter can't. She never could. Oh, God.
I'm so mad I don't know what to do. I want to know why. I want to know why Shelby's life is over. I want to know how that baby will ever know how wonderful his mother was. Will he ever know what she went through for him? Oh, God, I want to know why. Why? Lord, I wish I could understand. No. It's not supposed to happen this way. I'm supposed to go first. I've always been ready to go first. I don't think I can take this. I don't think I can take this. I just want to hit somebody till they feel as bad as I do. I just want to hit something. I want to hit it hard.
I mean, I always think of the scene in the hair salon where she's, when Julia Roberts' character is like having her,
her fit. Yeah.
And she's a calm mom. She knows how to take care of her kid. And she's just like trying to really, focus her in and get shit done. And I was like, that to me, she's able to zero in on being a loving mother character. And I think that's so interesting because she plays a lot of moms. And I think she's had, after like finishing the book and then watching these movies, I was like, holy shit, I see so much of Sally in these roles. I see her in Sybil, I see her in Norma, I see her in this.
And that's one of the things that I love about her specific training with Lee Strasberg is Lee Strasberg, obviously, like when you're playing a character, you don't want people to necessarily see you. You want them to see the character. But also, when you're paying to go see something, you're going to go see that actor.
Right.
Like, be it Brad Pitt, be it Sally Field, like you're paying money to see these people act. And one of the things I like that Lee Strasberg does is he makes them dig for something personal. And I think what it does is it helps the audience relate to what the actor is doing, both on a character level, but then on a person level.
Right.
And I think she really manages to stretch that divide. And I don't want to say that she's constantly playing herself. She absolutely is not. But the aspects of her, the things that you love about her, she injects these characters with.
Right. Going into the 90s, we have Soap Dish in 91.
Yeah.
Which we talked about in our Whoopi Goldberg episode. Problematic fave as fuck.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And really, it's that
the last minute.
Yeah, it's the last minute or 3 minutes or whatever. It's a horrible bout of transphobia that occurs at the end. But it's so funny. Rewatching it this time, I came up with a new theory about it.
Okay.
It is an Almodovar film done by Hollywood.
I can see that.
And it genuinely, like the use of color,
the vibe,
like everybody's a little over the top, but not believable. And I honestly think that joke, had it played in an Almodovar film, would have played so differently.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be like subversive or like...
Right.
It wouldn't... Because it's a Hollywood film,
right?
It's like...
you're invited to laugh at the person.
Right.
I don't think you would be in an Almodovar film, but I feel like because it is a Hollywood, it's like, no, we have to be like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because it's a spectacular film.
Yeah.
And she's amazing. Like, the levels that she achieves. And like I said earlier, I feel like sometimes, 11 and 2, and this one, she finds that sweet spot that just like rocket it off the edge. And
speaking of gay movie night, this is one you cannot forget.
Absolutely.
We just had a gay movie night with all of my gays. We watched Die Mommy Die.
Die Mommy Die. I was there.
Yeah, I know. I said we.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
You and me, Gavin.
Oh, yeah, that is us.
That is us.
This is us. A hit TV show on NBC.
Early 90s, we also get the titular Homeward Bound 93, where she plays Sassy.
And boy, is she.
She is sassy. Okay, listen, I watched Homeward Bound and the sequel, Lost in San Francisco. The sequel is trash, okay?
Yeah, I haven't seen the sequel since I think I saw it in the theaters when I was a little kid.
It is trash. The first one, though, is an emotional journey that is beautiful, wonderful, a building block for all of our childhoods. Watch it on Disney+. We also get, the same year, we get Mrs. Doubtfire, where she plays the mother of the kids, and she's married to Robin Williams.
Yeah.
The excellent scene work at the restaurant.
Oh, excellent. I mean, where would we be without the gif?
Where would we?
The whole time? The whole time?
And listen.
The whole time?
I was talking to Derek about this. Most actors, I think, would just go up, 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 up. She has 3 the whole times. She goes the whole time, and then comes back down, and it's the whole time. Like, that's a masterful work.
Beautiful choices.
Choices.
Daniel! Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! The whole time you were... The whole time?
Oh, I'm sorry, Miranda, please.
Don't talk to me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I have to go. We have to leave now. I have to leave. We have to leave now. I have to go. We're going.
The only thing I will say about Mrs. Doubtfire, though, I do feel like a great movie. So not a complaint necessarily. She is maybe a little bit underwritten. She's a bit shrill. She's a bit like, I'm the wife and I don't want my kids to have fun. And like, Robin Williams is kind of a loser until he gets his shit together. And admittedly, the movie does a lot to like make up for his character, and it's really fun and fantastic. But I will admit, like, I don't know if that movie would be made nowadays with the wife being perhaps as a little two-dimensional as she is. And I think Sally Field brings a lot to that role.
She definitely, like, there is that one moment where she's like, I'm always the bad guy. I have to be the bad guy because you're such a fucking loser fuck up.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, it tries to cover its bases there, but the movie succeeds and lives and dies on Robin Williams, obviously.
Yeah.
And, like, the performances. I mean, I think everyone in that movie is so well cast.
Yeah.
From the kids who feel so relatable to fucking James Bond.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan.
Like, who is just, like, he must have like the best sense of humor. He's like, yeah, I can play fuckboy. Yeah, I'm James Bond. The next year we get Forrest Gump, where she plays the mom of Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
you mentioned
once again, only 10 years older.
Yeah, only 10 years older, and she was like, yeah, I can do it. It's fine.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's another thing where, like, I mean, Forrest Gump has a lot of problems besides this, but it's another role that I'm like, would they have written the mom the same way as they did back then?
I haven't seen this movie in years.
I wasn't willing to rewatch it for this either, especially because she's such a supporting role.
Right. Does she even have scenes with Tom Hanks? I feel like she
does. She does. When she has scenes when he's the little kid, not with Tom Hanks, but then she has scenes in old age makeup when she's dying.
Oh, yeah. She talks about just like how she had to, like, working with child actors, she would bribe the kid to, like, do scenes like over and over. She's like, I'll give you candy. So honestly, mom. In 96, we have to talk really quickly about Eye for an Eye.
We do.
This was the first movie you said I had to watch.
Yeah, I did. And now I feel like a jerk because honestly, I watched the first 15 minutes and I was like, I don't need to rewatch this.
I had never watched it.
I was upset.
I had never watched it, and I watched it and I was like, she's doing a Jennifer Lopez enough?
Enough.
I cannot believe. She's like, I'm taking my Taekwondo classes. Yeah. I'm like learning how to self-defense. The scene that really got me, I texted you this, is when she's like getting word, or like her daughter's calling her that she's getting fucking killed.
Yeah.
And then the balloons just leave the car. This movie is beyond melodrama.
Oh, absolutely.
Kiefer Sutherland is a psychopath.
So essentially it's a revenge film because her daughter is raped and murdered by Kiefer Sutherland at the beginning of it. But it is brutal. And that's why I decided I didn't need to watch it again, because I was so actually disgusted with the depiction. And honestly, Kiefer Sutherland has said they had to stop shooting that scene multiple times because he was dry heaving at how awful
I mean, and it is. I wish I could do a little bit more journalism investigation on this movie specifically, because this movie feels like a reaction to, super criminals. Right. And like,
because he's like randomly selects. It's not like he's not like a smart,
and I was watching this movie. I was like, I don't know a lot about the justice system, but he is straight up out there murdering, and they're like, we can't do anything about it. So sorry. Also, Sally Field is fully just getting court documents and like scratching off whiteout.
That's the thing that I remember the most from when I was a kid is like they've whited out his information, and then the woman's like, it's not cement, honey. And then she's like scratching off the whiteout. Like,
I was like, okay, they're just being really loosey-goosey with how the law works in this movie. But yeah, it's a TNT drama, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I caught it on HBO a lot of times when I was a kid. So I'm pretty sure my mom rented it first. But that's
there you go. around this time is when she starts to smeagol back into TV stuff.
Yeah.
She gets an Emmy for a guest appearance on ER.
I did the best I could. I took care of you and Eric all by myself.
Excuse me, Mom. We took care of you.
You always had a place to stay and food to eat and clothes to wear. I worked hard for that.
When you were on your meds.
I tried hard to be a good mother. I tried every day. Abby, can you listen to me? There is a lot of me in you. I see it.
In her book, she skips over this part.
She skips over a lot of, we were discussing this before we started podcasting. Pretty much from Norma Rae to Lincoln, she just kind of glosses over.
Yeah, she's like, whatever, my career.
Yeah.
I mean, and she like, you know, I guess after Eye for an Eye, really, she's like not doing as many theatrical things.
Absolutely. She's doing, and when she does do theatrical stuff, you know, she actually directs a TV movie, but then she goes and she does a lot of like small bits. She shows up in Where the Heart Is in 2000. Yep.
Which we saw for Natalie Portman.
Absolutely. She directs her first big screen movie, a film called Beautiful in 2000 starring Minnie Driver and Joey Lauren Adams. It's not good, but it's the script's fault. I don't want to give it to the director. I think actually the acting is pretty decent in it.
I think Minnie Driver's a fucking genius.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I think, unfortunately, the characteristics they've given her character, you do not have to be a likable main character for a movie to be good, but you have to have something for the audience to latch onto. And she's kind of just a monster. And so I was just like, well, I don't really care. You know, there's nothing relatable here for me.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
She's in we've previously mentioned in other episodes, Legally Blonde 2.
Yes.
Red, White, and Blue.
My
Blonde.
1-star, my 1-star review for Regina King.
Yeah. She plays the, like, senator who's also a part of Sigma Nu or whatever the fuck. Yeah, I mean, these are, like, smaller bit things that she does. And honestly, when the first real big thing where I recognized, oh, Sally Field, I gotta watch this, was Brothers and Sisters.
Yeah.
When I was in college, that's all I watched. My Sunday nights, honey, they were at ABC. Grey's Anatomy.
Which, once again, back at ABC.
Yeah.
Brothers and Sisters was one of my mom's favorite TV shows when I was in college.
Just me and your mom.
Yep, just you and my mom. Kikiing, always, getting out the tea. And by that, I mean both the drink and the truth.
Hello. She wins an Emmy for Brothers and Sisters, and she has an iconic speech where she gets on stage and she says, if it were up to me, there'd be no goddamn wars.
And let's face it, if the mothers ruled the world, there would be no goddamn wars in the first place. Thank you for this.
Fox fully bleeps it out, turns the camera away.
Yeah.
But she was like...
And people were like, why did you do that, Fox? And they're like, some people might find that language objectionable.
And Sally said, fuck you, I don't give a fuck. This is around the time when Sally, she had remarried. I feel like I know so much about her first marriage, but like, who cares?
Yeah.
But she's, you know, she had her youngest son, Sam, pretty late in life. Like, she was in her 40s. And
yeah, I think her her second eldest son at that point was 12. So like they were already well past,
right.
You know, like baby stage.
And so I think this is probably, she obviously needed to be making money close to home.
Yeah.
And so she was like, okay, now I'm just going to be doing Brothers and Sisters. It's fine.
Can I tell you, by the way, the book, because I know you did the audiobook, but the book has a treasure trove of pictures that are obviously not in the audiobook. And can I tell you that there is a picture that is 100% proof as to why her son is gay?
Bam!
It's a picture of her on the set of Steel Magnolias with
oh my God.
Julia Roberts, Olympia Dukakis, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, and baby Sam.
Little Sammy.
You know, they say that you're born with it, but I think this is origin story.
That is clear proof, honey.
Radioactive Queens.
Yeah. They'll get you. And so she's doing Brothers and Sisters, and it was during this time when she gets a call from Steven Spielberg. He's like, I just bought the rights to this Abraham Lincoln.
Team of Rivals, this book about Lincoln and his cabinet.
Right. And so he's like, I want you to be Mary Todd. And she's like, love that. Great. But movies take a long time to actually happen. She can feel this role kind of slipping away. She talks a lot to us about how she wanted this role so badly. But when they decided to cast Daniel Day-Lewis, she was like, fuck, I'm 10 years older than Daniel Day-Lewis. Mary Todd's 10 years younger than him. But she says, I'm going to still fight for it. And so when Steven Spielberg says, hey, sorry, we're going to have to move on from you, she's like, the fuck you are.
Yeah, I love that story too. She's like, you're wrong.
Yeah. She's like, no. She basically has an audition with him. They show it to Daniel Day-Lewis. He was like, fuck yes, that's my girl. They do a little screen test together. They're like, yep, you're right. Bam. In 2012, I believe, she gets another Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. And that's the same year that she stars in her highest grossing film, The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
And she, honestly, I think she's a great Aunt May.
I'll be perfectly honest too. Like, I think, I can't think of her name right now, but Rosemary Harris.
The first Aunt May.
Yeah, is a beautiful representation of the Aunt May of the 1960s.
Yep.
I think Sally Field was the perfect representation of the Aunt May of like the ultimate Spider-Man.
Yep.
And genuinely, the only scene that I think is good in the second Amazing Spider-Man is like the one scene that she has in the film.
And who else was going to care for you and protect you and worry about you? Your father? No. I was the one who wiped your nose and made you brush your teeth and do your homework and washed your dirty underwear. Me, your stupid, non-scientific aunt who doesn't know how to make ends meet, who has to take nursing classes with 22-year-old kids so I can pay for you to go to college. And I don't know how to do this without Ben. I don't know how. And you're dreaming about your perfect father who was never here. No, I won't tell you. You're my boy. As far as I'm concerned, you're my boy. And I won't hurt you.
Yeah, she was perfect. And
she was perfect.
As much as I don't particularly care for the Amazing Spider-Man series, the two films that they did with Andrew Garfield, I don't know. I almost wish she got to keep the role. Yeah, not that young, hot Marissa Tomei. I love make her show up anywhere.
Yeah.
But
listen, okay, I think Andrew Garfield's a great Spider-Man. I think Emma Stone is excellent. I want them to have babies together. The movies are fine.
Second one's not even fine.
The second one's not even fine.
Yeah.
But I cried. Moving on. I blame Jamie Foxx. Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Moving on. She gets her star, her Hollywood Walk of Fame star in 2014.
I think I read somewhere that it's like in front of the Hollywood Wax Museum or something like that.
Oh, it absolutely is. In 2015, one of our favorite movies, she stars in Hello, My Name is Doris.
Yes.
So good.
Went to the theaters to see that. Love that movie.
I've seen it 3 times.
Oh my God. I rewatched it for this just because I was just like, I need a little light in my life.
Yeah, why not? In 2017, I mean, so like we're here, we're queer. It's fine. I'm drunk.
She does like a brief role in a Netflix film called Little Evil. I just watched it last night. No idea what she's doing there. Whatever.
Excellent. I got to see her on Broadway.
Did you?
I saw her in 2017 doing The Last Menagerie.
Fuck yeah, you did.
That's great. I mean, the thing that like really struck me is she's such a physical actress. You know, that in that production, it's she's really like taking care of that younger daughter, and like I was like, oh my God, that's American legend Sally Field like on stage. Just really, you know, I think for it would be easy to be like, let her sit down and just like act. But not this Sally. She's like going around. She's still spry as fuck.
I do really wish, I mean, obviously I was not in New York City at the time. In 2005, she originated one of the leads in The Goat, or Who is Sylvia.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish I could have seen that. It's a good play.
You fucked up, Gavin.
Yeah, I did.
You fucked up.
I did.
By not living here. I guess moving really quickly into her activism, she famously has osteoporosis. She, for a long time, was the Boniva girl.
Controversially, because Boniva, which is supported by Roche and GlaxoSmithKline, apparently made a lot of claims that they couldn't actually scientifically back up.
Ooh, good.
But, you know, that's not Sally's fault.
That's not Sally's fault. She is like, that's like the most liberal lefty California girl you could possibly get. She is, like we've mentioned, a great ally for and supporter of gay rights. She is a Democrat. She supported Hillary in 2008. She joined her good friend Jane Fonda and got arrested this past year.
Yeah, in December, nonetheless. So only a couple months ago.
Advocating for climate change.
Actions against climate change. Yeah.
She loves climate change.
She's just melting ice caps.
Yeah.
She's spraying 3 different bottles of hairspray. Well,
she said, "Fuck Earth." Yeah. And honestly, me too, bitch.
But also last year she became an author and she wrote her book in pieces, and we've used it as a vast majority of our primary sources for this episode.
And I will say that her and her mom figured it out. Okay,
they did, but they didn't get time to talk about everything, and that's really upsetting to me.
Are you, Gavin's still reeling?
I'm reeling.
I think that's a perfect spot for us to move into our picks. Gavin, what do you think we should do first?
I think we should start with our 5-star reviews. We haven't started with 5-star reviews in a while.
Spicy. Okay. I am going to have to. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff to pick here. I'm gonna pick 1979's Norma Rae. I have to. For a while, I was like, man, Sybil's fucking banging. Like, what if I just picked Sybil? But I think Norma Rae, I had never seen it before. What I loved about it is, I think Sally Field is very good. When I in my head, when I think of her as an actress, she's very good at just like boiling over and like kind of, it's like she gets really tense and is just like so mad. And maybe that's just because when I like really met her was in Brothers and Sisters, and she's always like angry at her fucking kids or whatever.
Calista Flockhart was your daughter.
Yeah, I would be so pissed.
Yeah. Harrison Ford.
But in Norma Rae, she gets to do that, but I think she has a lot more to do and a really nice range of it. I mean, you mentioned the beautiful scene where she sits down her kids to tell them about her life. I should have talked about the movie. So Norma Rae, 1979, directed by Martin Ritt, and it is about this textile mill in the South. And it is about a man who's coming to town with the Textile Workers of America union, trying to unionize the mill. He's Jewish. He's a lefto. He's just, very sore thumb sticking out in this community. What I love about this movie also is that there's obviously like a race thing going on. There's a religious thing going on. And so Norma Rae, she lives with her parents,
but she's second generation working in a factory.
Right. Right. And so when she's having this affair with this married man, she kind of just like,
and the implication is that she's slept around a lot.
Right.
Oh,
I know. Been there. And she kind of, her father and mom are kind of, they both work in the plant. And Norma is just known to be having a big mouth, She wants longer breaks. She wants just better working conditions. And so she kind of falls in with this TWA worker and slowly is like, yeah, I think I should be part of this. I should help out. And I don't know. She talks about in the book where Martin Ritt, like, she's like, better than any award I ever got was one day he came to me and he's like, that was a very good scene you did. Like, she was like, oh my God, like to get praise from this like notoriously really tough director who did not take shit from anyone on set.
Yeah.
She tells about how his wife was on set and like mentioned something and he was like, well, when you direct a movie, you can do that. Gag. Like, and so she was like, he didn't want to hear anyone giving anyone notes.
Right.
It was
if another actor gave you notes.
Yeah. It was his job.
Yeah.
And this was his movie and we were in service of his vision. And
but at the same time, just to give you an idea of who Martin Ritt is, he never did the whole a film by Martin Ritt.
Right.
Because he believed the moment that he acted, directed, wrote, produced, edited, then it'd be a film by Martin Ritt.
Right. Then it's like his film.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's just like something very, she's so young in this movie.
Yeah.
But she is just like the epitome of this little spitball. And that the moment, I mean, the entire scene where she has a moment where basically the factory and like the union, they're coming to a head, and she sees it coming. Like there is going to be a breaking point, and she knows if she does this thing, she's going to pay for it.
Right.
And she's scared, and she's pissed off, but she has to do it. And so she gets into this big fight with the organizer, and she's like, "You just want me to fucking do this thing? Like I know what I have to do. I know it. Cut me some fucking slack." And she blows up, but it's in such a way because you can feel like the turmoil inside of her. And then the scene where it all happens, leading up to that iconic moment of her standing up with the union sign, it's like a masterclass. Like
yeah.
And again, like I said, I see so much of Sally in this character because she's surrounded by these men telling her what to do, what she can do, and she's just like, no, and it's almost as if Norma was the way for her to finally be able to say no, because she had gone through so much in her life where she didn't feel like she could. She didn't have the agency. She felt like everything was just like, coming in around her. And this role for her was finally her way to find a space to be that woman that got on the table and demanded attention, demanded help. And yeah, it's just, there's a great line where she's asking a pastor if they can use the church for a union meeting, and she says it's going to be black people and white people, and the pastor says, well, I guess we'll miss your voice in the church choir, and she says, you'll hear it just somewhere else. And I was like,
and said I sinned and I done wrong and I'm sorry and I ask for God to forgive me. Now I want to see what this church stands for. I want to see if you'll stand up in that pulpit and say there ought to be justice, there ought to be a union, and if you're smitten and you rise up and the Lord will be on your side. And if you don't, and I say there ain't nothing good for me in that church.
It's just so good, and there's a reason why the movie resonated so to this day. There's a reason why, and it's because of her and her performance.
I really wanted, when I was deciding my 5-star review, I really wanted to give it to something from my childhood that I remember so well, be it Punchline, be it Steel Magnolias, and maybe just because I rewatched it today, be it Soap Dish, because I love the levels she creates in Soap Dish, and I love her being silly, but also being serious. But if I have to pick a 5-star review, it is also Norma Rae. And I 100% agree with you. I genuinely not even sure what else I can add, because you just did that so eloquently and so beautifully. I'm a huge supporter of unions. I love the fact that she took this chance on this small film about it too, nonetheless, that this was her turning point. And I agree. I really think it was her moment to break away and be kind of like, no, this is who I am. I'm a person. Pay attention to me. Yeah. I have this power inside of me. I think that's also why her book really does just go from, she talks about a couple other projects in the middle, but it's really like Norma Rae made me a star. And then Lincoln is that moment where I had to tell maybe the most important film director in America that he was wrong. And it's interesting to see that arc, and like she clearly sees it as well. And I 100% agree. I think it's a really fantastic film. I love the family stuff. I really like her. As much as I just said she doesn't have chemistry with Jeff Bridges, I think she has a lot of chemistry with Beau Bridges, which is funny because he's kind of an asshole in the film. And I think it's really interesting the way that plays out.
Yeah.
And obviously she's got great chemistry with her co-star, who's the union organizer. And I like that they don't play it as romance.
No.
They genuinely don't.
No.
I think a lesser film would.
Right. And in the end, Beau is like, have you slept with him?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, but I do think of him.
Yeah.
And that to me is just like, my mind exploded, and I was like, this is a fucking woman who has a brain.
Yeah.
And she's intrigued and interested in, not only her community, but she's like, fuck, I made a difference. I was the one who got them to turn off the fucking factory machines. And it's beyond liberating, especially knowing now, like, what she had to go through up to that point. I don't know. There's just something really special about that movie.
Yeah.
And you again mentioned it with her and her kids. Like, I don't know if the movie is like, is it crazy to call this movie sex positive?
I mean, it is though.
It's like, it's groundbreaking where she says, honey, this is your father.
Right.
We never got married. Honey, this is your father. And this is what happened to us. And you're going to hear shit about me. And I don't want anyone to pick on you because of my decisions. You know, this is who I am.
Right. They're going to tear me down. They're going to try and take you down with me.
Yeah.
Like, don't let them.
And
because I'm not going to let them.
Yeah, and it's just like the most, like, I don't know. It feels like so much truth in this movie, you know?
Yeah. It's a beautiful, beautiful film. Unfortunately, and I think this is because Disney bought Fox, it's very hard to find now. If you don't own a copy of it, it's not streaming anywhere.
Right.
So, yeah, good luck. I can recommend you some places where you can purchase it if you need, but I do recommend doing that because it's very much worth it.
It's an American classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really quickly, what are some other things that we want to really highlight?
Once again, as I mentioned, fucking Soap Dish. Her chemistry with Kevin Kline, off the charts. The scene where they have to retake the kiss 3 times, fucking love it. Comedy gold.
Maggie, I've thought about nothing except what we once were, how we... Sorry, I just didn't feel anything. One more time. Maggie.
Yeah.
Oh! Oh, Maggie. I thought about nothing except what we once were. Oh, we made magic.
That's a Kusky. That one was good for me.
Having to jump on Kevin Kline but I mentioned Punchline. I'm not going to mention it again because I've said its name enough. Steel Magnolias, weeping like a baby.
Can we talk a minute about Hello, My Name is Doris?
Yes. Oh yeah. Please.
Holy shit!
And like, what a good late career film for her, nonetheless.
What a gift of a role, and it shouldn't be, but like it really is. And this movie, like, I'm sure like the gag or the sell of it was like, old woman like falls in love with a younger guy and she's delusional about it. But this movie's so much more than that.
Oh, absolutely. And the movie's so on her side.
Yeah.
For it. You know, she's a quirky older woman who works in an office. She's a holdover from a previous buyout, essentially. Because it's like a young, hip company and she's an accountant. A new guy comes in, played by Max Greenfield, who is gorgeous.
Dreamy.
Yeah. So, yeah. No wonder, you know.
Officer Leo of Veronica Mars fame, if you will.
Absolutely. And she starts having this vivid fantasy life of him. At the same time, her mother has just passed away. Yeah. She's spent years taking care of her mother.
Yep.
She's become a hoarder because of this. And her brother, who got out, played by Stephen Root, wants her to sell her life off, essentially. And she doesn't want to do it.
His wife, played by Wendy McLevin
Coven?
Yeah, something like that. They're like...
Great role for her, by the way. Yeah. But what a monster.
What a monster. They essentially like, we need to sell this house. You need to get rid of all this shit. Yeah. And she's like, but I live here and this is all my stuff. And it's just like, I remember the first time I watched that movie being like, it's kind of like a sucker punch situation where you're like, oh, this is so fun when she gets in with Max Greenfield's friends and Jack Antonoff. Like, it's just like, it's like this funny, silly, same, honey.
Especially when he called, like, sorry guys, I know you can't see us right now, but we're both melting a little bit. But especially when Jack Antonoff's like, she's hot.
Yeah.
And I was just like, she is hot, Jack Antonoff. Correct. Like, both. Like,
why not both? But in the end, when she realizes, like, she has created this secondary delusion about Max Greenfield and this friendship and in her life. But the real issue is the main delusion of, you know, keeping a hold on to all these things.
Yeah.
And she realizes that she needs to let go. She needs to live a life of her own now.
Right. Which she hasn't done ever.
And I mean, there's the horrible scene where the brother is like, you know, I'm disappointed in you. And she's like, and she fucking loses it.
You're disappointed in me. Todd, where were you? Where were you all those years? All those years. I took care of her. I fed her. I clothed her. I took care of her. Where were you? Where were you?
We made an agreement, Doris. Huh?
You were in the best position to take care of her.
And how else would I have gone to school? Start my own business, huh? How? You agreed to that. We agreed to that.
I could have had those things. I could have had them too. I could have.
And that's classic Sally Field.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And also, just a real quick shout out, Tyne Daly plays her best friend in it. Fucking love the role that Tyne Daly is playing.
The cast of women around Sally Field in that movie.
It's so funny because, this was I feel like this was Michael Showalter's big move towards mainstream, because after this he then went on to direct The Big Sick, and I think you can see those seeds in there, and I would love to see him do something like this again. Yeah.
We love this movie.
Yeah.
Let's really quickly go watch Homeward Bound to Cry. Yeah, okay, good. And also, if you have 3.5 hours, watch Sybil.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's move into our 1-star reviews. Okay, so my pick, and I'm so sorry, is Punchline.
Is it really? Yeah. Oh, no.
Okay, listen.
Kim will never forgive you.
Listen. So maybe it's like a 2-star review. I don't know. I've been looking at this list. Did I care for Smoking the Bandit? Not really, but she's fine in it. So, okay, Punchline. We've already said what Punchline is about. It's she's a mom, but she wants to be a stand-up comedian. I believe her as a stand-up comedian. I think there's a great scene where she's like doing the stand-up, and Tom Hanks is like, what does your nanny do? Where are your kids?
Yeah.
The reason why I do not like this movie, in the end, spoiler alert.
Oh, no, the ending is a huge problem. Yeah.
It's 2 things. One, I think this movie thinks it's a little bit more than it is. There's the whole moment where he's like singing in the rain because...
That scene's amazing, though. How dare you?
He wants to fuck her.
Right.
And she's like... No. And he is like... Really,
but did you not find any beauty in that scene where she's like, I love my husband, and he's like, well, you'll have to get over that. He's like unstable. He's a comedian. Like,
he is very unstable. I just was like, I was less charmed by Tom Hanks and his like, and I was like, why the fuck would Sally Field's character want to do any of this?
See, I do kids' parties, and kids love me once they get to know me, and I think that your kids will love me once they get to know me.
Sure. Stephen...
Mr. Carrot and Mr. Lettuce had a terrible auto accident. Know what the doctor said when they took him to the hospital?
They'd be vegetables the rest of their lives.
You knew it!
No, I didn't.
I had a girlfriend. She was so skinny. You know how
Stephen.
skinny she was?
When she drank tomato juice, she looked like a thermometer.
That's right. You know how ugly she
Stephen,
was?
these are so
Tell me how
old.
ugly she
These
was.
Are very
Tell me
old.
how ugly she was.
How ugly was she? How ugly was she? When she walked into a room, all the mice jumped on chairs.
Now, do you see? Do you see how great we would be together? I mean, married or something? That's right. That's what I said. I said married.
Stephen, I love my husband.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to be married, you'll have to get over that.
Yeah.
She clearly wants an outlet to be a comedian. I get that. But nowhere in the story she's like, maybe I should have an affair. Maybe I should, go off with fucking loser Tom Hanks who,
It's funny. I recently read an interview, too, where Tom Hanks was talking about why he doesn't play villains, because he doesn't think it'd be believable. He's like, that's just not who I am. But earlier in his career, he was allowed to be sort of villainous. And I think this is actually kind of one of those roles where he's not the worst guy, but he is not a good guy.
I think that this movie, though, that there are a lot of... I'm getting off track. Let's get back to the ending.
Yes.
The ending is cuckoo bananas and fucking a big, fuck you to Sally Field, essentially.
Yeah.
There's a big contest to get on network TV or something.
To get on Johnny Carson.
Right.
Whom she dated in real life for a hot second.
I love that she's like, I was a little flirt. I was always seeing someone. She was repressed for so long. Okay, so there's this big contest, and all of these comedians from this club are going to have an opportunity to compete and do their type fives or whatever. Like you said, this world is populated with actual comedians.
Yeah.
Damian Wayans is one of them. The one black comedian, and he bombs.
Oh, yeah. Which is not great either.
I was like, okay, we know that guy's funny. But anyway, so everyone performs, and, it's like a big climactic thing where they finally, Sally was like, I'm not going to go. She goes, her husband is there, and it's like a very kind of like, wow, support, and it's actually going to happen for her. And the judges are voting, and she wins. She finds out that she wins. They tell her that she wins. And she's kind of like, no, I didn't win. No, I'm not going to win.
Yeah. She's like, my home life is enough.
And she fucking bails on it.
Yeah.
And to let Tom Hanks win.
Yeah.
And then she walks out like with no pomp, no circumstance. It's all just like her and John, walking out, being like, ha ha ha, you gotta work this into your... I'm like, fuck you, she just won this big contest. She doesn't need your shit. Like,
it's funny because the one joke that he does give her is something that really happened to her. She mentions in the book where she was like screaming at the doctors, I'm Lamaze.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, you should work that into your act. But
I thought the politics of that obviously are super fucking shitty. Like, this woman could not win. Like, it's somewhere in Hollywood was like, well, we can't let her win. Tom Hanks needs to win.
It's so funny too, because I don't want to defend the ending because I do think it's trash, and I do think she should have stayed and won. I do wonder, like, because we see her always as a woman who's constantly, as much as she wants to put her dream first, she's constantly putting other people's dreams in front of her. And I do wonder if that plays a little into that in the end, because he's so unstable that I'm pretty sure she's like, if he loses this, he's going to kill himself.
He's going to fucking lose it. Yeah. And
because he starts off bombing in a terrible way.
Right. And so this is also, he's like in med school to like satiate his father, who is an asshole, whatever. The movie though, like ramps up his like trauma from his dad, like really quickly and really aggressively. And I was like, this is like the quote unquote star person of the comedy realm.
Yeah.
Goes to do a set because he thinks some head honcho's there, and then his dad's there and has a full mental breakdown
on stage.
Pretty early in the movie. And I was like, a star is not born, honey.
And also, it is one of those questions like, would they have let him perform again with that sort of... Because that wasn't even like a comedy routine.
No.
That was like...
He was like, my dad's here. And he doesn't even fucking... Like, it's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
This is not the worst movie ever made. But of what I watched, I was like, eh.
Not even Smokey and the Bandit 2. Did you watch that one?
Didn't watch that one.
I will say Smokey and the Bandit 2 has one redeeming factor, which is she was gearing up to break up with Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
And there's a scene in which her character, Froggy, breaks up with Burt Reynolds, and she wrote it herself.
Excellent. Good for her.
And it's very good.
When I first met you, I think you really liked yourself. I liked you. And you did what you did best.
What, show off?
Yeah. And you did it so good you got famous. And then you felt you had to do more and more until you were doing what you didn't do best. And now I don't think you even have any fun.
I'm not having any fun right now.
Neither am I. I hope you like yourself someday.
But no, I mean, I'm not going to agree with you, because I do like Punchline. And there's also some problematic stuff. It was back when people thought that, like, funny accents of other cultures were...
I was thinking... I was like, wow, I definitely remember a time... I mean...
I think Tom Hanks does, like, a Chinese accent at some point, and I was like, no.
Well, a lot of the comedians are like, oh, yeah, and so this is me doing, like, the guy in the cab, or the guy at my takeout spot.
Yeah.
And, like, isn't it so funny that I sound, Chinese or what Middle Eastern,
Indian,
whatever the fuck it is. A lot of the characters, and I was like, wow, comedy in the 90s was literally just
80s,
that.
Late 80s,
yeah, it was just that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some issues, but my 1-star review, and I previously mentioned it. I was actually thinking about giving it to Smokey and the Bandit 2, and actually, she herself. She's the second actor we've ever done to give their own 1-star review, and she's listed both Smokey and the Bandit 2 and Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
I think probably Beyond the Poseidon. I think there's a couple of others that are really, really bad.
The sequel to Poseidon.
Actually, Smokey and the Bandit 2 is pretty awful.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know, it's a toss. I don't know. I'm just going to go with Smokey and the Bandit 2 just because I hardly ever speak of it.
But I have to give it to Beyond the Poseidon Adventure.
Okay, I did not watch this.
It's garbage. She essentially, first of all, Poseidon Adventure is a film in which a giant cruise liner turns upside down and many people have to try and survive. And in the end, there's
wasn't there a remake with Fergie?
Yes, it was just called Poseidon. No adventure, just Poseidon. And you know, there's like 6 survivors in the end. This movie picks up the day after, because the storm hits on New Year's Eve. So this is New Year's Day, and there's a salvage crew run by Michael Caine, and they've picked up a young girl played by Sally Field who's going to help them salvage. And there's one other crew member, and they run across the Poseidon and they decide they're going to steal its riches, you know, because they'll have the salvage rights if they get there first. They get there. Telly Savalas is there claiming that he's with a bunch of doctors. Turns out, no, he's there to steal smuggled uranium, which is on a cruise liner. What?
That's how they get that here.
Yeah. Along the way, they find some other survivors, even though, once again, the survivors of the first film were the only survivors.
What a twist.
Yeah, exactly. Peter Boyle, and it's just disaster after disaster. And what's interesting about the first movie is the first movie's not great. I actually wrote a joke about the first movie in my senior thesis film in college.
Wow.
Which you will never see, sorry.
Okay.
But the thing about the first movie is it's tense and it's claustrophobic, and none of that seems really apparent in this film because it really seems kind of easy to get into the ship, and it seems like
people are everywhere.
Yeah, it seems kind of the ease in which they go from one peril to another. The tension is never there. On top of that, she and Michael Caine are love interests. And it's gross.
Okay.
And weird. And they have no chemistry.
I mean, I can do anything that I set my mind to do, you know? I mean, anything. I have this very high IQ, if you hadn't noticed. I don't know, I'm just sort of this underachiever.
Underachiever? You're the toughest monkey on this ship.
Monkey?
Yeah.
You call me Monkey. That's cute. That's really cute. You call me Monkey. I hate that. I hate to be called Monkey. I mean, maybe it would have helped if I wore my long black evening gown, but then I packed it away with all the rest of my summer things. Oh, I want to get out of here.
Celeste. Celeste.
What?
I think you're beautiful.
You do? You gonna kiss me now?
No.
Well, then let's just get the hell out of here.
She would later go on to star with Michael Caine in a comedy called Surrender in 1987. I cannot find hide nor hair of this film except for trailers. I just think maybe people are like, her and Michael Caine shouldn't be a thing.
This is an alleged movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's gross and weird, and I do not like it. In the end, like, in the book, The Poseidon Adventure, the ship sinks. Since it didn't sink in the first movie, this was a total cash grab to, like, revisit it.
Right.
But in the end, they blow up the ship just to give you, like, you know, oh, it's something different, you know? Irwin Allen, this was his last theatrical film. He is, for all intents and purposes, brilliant, man. He created Lost in Space, and, like, I like a lot of his stuff. He was very famous for his disaster movies, Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure. But this was an unmitigated bomb. He actually gave the first thing you see in the film is an Irwin Allen production, and there's a huge music fanfare, and he instructed the person who scored the movie to include it, and apparently the audiences laughed, and he was very upset about that. It's just a disaster all around, and Sally Field agrees. So yeah.
I mean, you can't get a better,
No, you don't need to see the Poseidon Adventure. Was there anything else that you particularly didn't like?
I saw a movie called 2 Weeks.
Yeah. It's really bad.
I think she's pretty good in it.
She's good in it, yeah.
And she, like, weaves in, kind of like you mentioned in Punchline, she weaves in one of those stories, like, some of her personal stuff. These kids are just fucking assholes, you know?
Yeah, well, it's the only film that director's ever directed, and he wrote it too. And I think what it is like, you know how there's a thing called inside joke, and you know how it's like people are laughing and you feel sort of on the outside. This movie was like inside grief.
That movie
where grief is so personal, and I just was not included in there.
Like it feels like every moment, because it's grief, but also like there's supposed to be these funny moments.
Oh yeah,
I was like every scene was like, this happened to this guy once and thought it'd be good in a movie.
Yeah,
and it's like, okay,
and like the funny moments are punctuated by bits of like.
Yeah, I was like, your experiences aren't universal, sir.
No, not at all.
So yeah, 2 weeks.
I will give a shout out to Julianne Nicholson, who I think is a society we failed, because she should be a huge star, and she's like constantly being relegated to TV.
She's the best part of the movie.
Yeah. Like when she shows her brother, like that, she like turns her mother over, and there's all these black marks.
She's like, this is cancer,
and she's like, she has so much cancer in her body, it is growing outside of it. And I was just like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Julianne Nicholson.
Yeah. The sons, though, are just all assholes.
Oh, yeah. They're all terrible.
They're like, ugh, how long is it going to take for mom to die?
You have, like, first season Sonny Glenn Howerton and Tom Cavanaugh, who's now relegated to The Flash. And Ben Chaplin, who every time I'm looking at him, I'm like, Billy Crudup wasn't available?
Billy Crudup. Poor man's Billy Crudup, if you will.
Absolutely.
Beyond that, you know, even like silly dumb things I loved, like Kiss Me Goodbye, love that.
I will say, you know, the time period Smokey and the Bandit and Norma Rae is a lot of misses, and I think and I'll include Stay Hungry, which is before Smokey and the Bandit. But it's a lot of like supporting roles for men. You know, Heroes, it's Henry Winkler. Stay Hungry, it's Jeff Bridges.
It's almost like that time period, like late 70s. Norma Rae withstanding, and also the like early aughts, 2003, 2006, they are both time periods where it's like supporting things on interesting movies, kind of like, I just need to make some money.
Which is really unfortunate because she's so talented, but yeah, but also these roles are often marked with not only as supporting, but they're like ill-treated roles. Like it's almost like she's not good enough to be a full human.
Right.
Before we get into our fast forward,
right,
let's get into our mixed reviews.
My 5-star review is 1979's Norma Rae.
My 5-star review is also 1979's Norma Rae.
Wow, this hasn't happened in a while.
No, it hasn't.
Wow. Good to be back. And my 1-star review was, I'm so sorry, 1980's Punchline. 88's Punchline.
And my 1-star review is 1979's Catwoman. I mean, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. It's genuinely, that happens so much. But let's get into our fast forward.
What does Sally have on the horizon? We know that she has a show on AMC.
Yes, which is currently airing. I believe it's on the 3rd episode. It's called Dispatches from Elsewhere. It was created by Jason Segel. I started the 1st episode and I found it really precious in a way that I was not enjoying. I've heard great things actually about the lead, Eve Lindley, the lead actress in it. She plays Jason Segel's girlfriend. She's also, it's one of her first big roles. She's a trans actress. She was handpicked by Jason Segel to play the lead woman in the show. So like, yeah, but I'm interested to see what's happening with Sally Field now that she's back on TV, because it seems like in her book, she does not hold TV in high regard.
No.
She oftentimes is doing it because it's only for money.
It's like a means to an end for her. Which is interesting because it almost, I mean, and like I said, she was such a good example of someone who's been able to go back and forth way before, you know, it's become in vogue now. But she even said, you know, when she was doing Brothers and Sisters, she was like, oh, fuck, they're not going to hire me to do Lincoln because I'm on this ABC show. And she had to really fight. Steven Spielberg wasn't like, yes, the great Sally Field.
Right.
Come, please be in my movie. They were like, I don't know. And she had to say, like, I know I have baggage. I know that there's a lot of assumptions about me as an actress and what people are going to think of me in this movie. And so I feel like she's just been kind of like really fucking hurt by TV. You know, like she did not her experience in TV is not the experience of, say Viola Davis or actors now who are like, oh yeah, I get to do all this like great, like it's not like fucking Nicole Kidman who like, who's like, yeah, I did like Big Little Lies and it's been great. She literally had to do fucking stupid little children shit to work her way up in the industry now. But yeah, I don't see anything. Her IMDb page does not show anything for the future as far as projects go.
Right. I will say, though, I mean, it's not like she's unhonored as a national treasure. Last year, she was awarded the Kennedy Center Honors, which is a huge deal. She's one of 5 award recipients every year. And so, yeah, that's a really big deal to be honored in such a way and to be like, hey, your contribution to the arts is important. We see you.
When we met almost 50 years ago, the world already knew Sally Field.
And as the years rolled by, her body of work grew in, I think, the most impressive way. I'm in love with her.
This kind of is the real pinnacle achievement award. I just am on sort of an emotional flood. Whoa! That was just enormous.
Who knows what she's going to do next? Who knows what else she's has on her plate? But I'm glad that she has that recognition, that people don't just see her as Gidget or the Flying Nun or, I don't know.
I'm trying to see, how old is she now? She's 73.
She is.
So she is not a spring chicken.
No.
But I think we've talked multiple times about how roles for women and like, what roles could there be left for someone like Sally Field? Is she still interested in doing stuff?
Right.
Who fucking knows?
Well, that's why I was surprised about that. The last film she's done is that Netflix film Little Evil. She's in the movie for maybe 30 seconds and she's playing like kind of a bit character part. And I was kind of like, is she just doing this for fun? Like, what is it a favor? Like, what is at this point in her career? But I don't know. But she also doesn't have to. She's won 2 Academy Awards. She won every single national award for Norma Rae. So,
I mean, I think all her kids are grown-ups now.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's married. She's been divorced twice, I think. But I mean, if reading the book is any indication, she finally feels like she's at peace.
Yeah.
With
she doesn't need
right, and I think
in a way that's very Jane Fonda as well too, where she's just like, I'm okay with being me.
And I think now she can really be, if something good comes along, she'll take a look and get into it. But like, I still don't think she needs to work. She doesn't have to take those roles that she was before.
Yeah.
But she's proven that she can still do. I mean, when she did Hello, My Name Is Doris, she certainly, in her, I think, early 70s, maybe late 60s. And she's fucking great in it.
Yeah.
She still has it. She still looks so cute and full of life. And that's also another thing. She's always looked the way she looks. Like,
yes,
she has just, that same face with those big cheeks, huge eyes. And it is like so inviting.
And when she smiles, like, I don't know, there's something about her smile that just like inner light shines on everything around her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, what a good 2 weeks it's been. Just,
I will say I do want to see her on stage again though, only because for selfish reasons.
Because I was gonna say, you're so selfish, Gavin.
I am selfish.
Broadway's not even open right now.
That's true.
God help us all.
Yeah. We're going to be doing 40 more episodes while you're in quarantine.
God. God help you guys.
Yeah. But I think that brings us to the conclusion of Sally Field for now, until she does whatever she does next, and we'll be there in the theaters to see it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for listening.
Absolutely. If you want to find us online, you can find us on Twitter at The Mixed Reviews.
We're also on Facebook. Just type in The Mixed Reviews.
You can email us at reviewsmixed@gmail.com.
We're also on Instagram, _mixed_reviews.
And if you want to listen to us like you have been for the past however many hours, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartMedia, Google Play Music, and if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review us. Leave us a little nice 5-star review and write us a little comment, and we'll read it on the show.
I want you all to know that Gavin gesticulates wildly.
I do.
As he explains what you can do to comment for us.
The podcast, visual medium.
Mm-hmm.
Visual medium.
It helps.
I don't know why I'm voguing that.
Yeah,
Visual medium.
Opulence. I own everything.
I earn everything.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure and check out our Twitter poll when it comes out in about a week to vote for your favorite Sally movie. Stay safe out there.
Absolutely, and we'll be back with you in April, and hopefully things will be a little more normal in then.
God, help us all. Sally be with us and also with you.
Absolutely. Pray to that flying nun.
Bye.
Bye.
Pack up your dirty books, your socks that have